Scarlet Witch vs Zatanna is happening sooner than I expected this season, but I'm glad they're dropping a match I had no investment in super early, so that I can be excited for the potentially interesting matches the rest of the season has in store. Though that's talking about what will happen, so let's talk about what actually has happened. Was Wanda vs Zatanna any good, or does Strange vs Fate have a spiritual successor? Well, I really can't believe I'm saying this, but I enjoyed this episode way more than I expected to. And that's not some backhanded compliment where I'm surprised I liked it at all. The episode genuinely turned out really good. So starting with the analysis, one of my biggest issues with Marvel and DC on the show is how repetitive they can end up feeling. I can only hear about the Batman explosion, or Kyle Rayner holding back the Big Bang, or Thor's hammer traveling across the galaxy as the crux of their argument so many times before I start getting numb to it and the episodes start blending together for me. I mentioned last year that I appreciated Batman vs Iron Man for finally taking that step and solidly putting characters on a multiversal level to make things feel different, but even that's nothing compared to Wanda and Zatanna both being put at an omniversal scale, which is a term I never really expected to hear them use unironically. Of course, that's just the stat stuff, which is what I have the least amount of investment in. But truth be told, I don't have too much of an opinion on the rest of the rundowns. I mean, I liked them, but they don't give me too much to talk about, and also Zatanna's doesn't bring up Batman and his magic crystals, so the episode's getting a 1 out of 10 for that. But seriously though, it went over their stories and their craziest accomplishments fairly well, and I liked learning about how their powers worked. Not so much what specifically they could do, but comparing Zatanna's magic to Dr. Fate and Green Lantern, and explaining how Wanda's powers grew and evolved from their kinda shitty start was pretty neat to hear. Jocelyn coming back was also nice to see, and the cutaways aren't awful slapstick for once, which is a breath of fresh air. Actually, the cutaways kinda aren't anything. They just serve to breathe more life into an otherwise probably fairly bland portion of the analysis. Boomstick almost starts to tell a joke in the one in Wanda's rundown, but it's like he got cut off halfway through. Probably because the full one was reserved for the preview. Don't know why, but I did like the extended version. Oh, and the editing was top notch as well, but it's a comic episode, so that kind of goes without saying at this point. And then we have the fight. When I saw the sneak peek on the cast at first, I was very underwhelmed. Not because it was bad, but because it kind of wasn't anything at all. I thought the backgrounds and effects looked really nice, and that's about where my opinions ended. Though it has grown on me a little. I know that some have criticised the setup, and I obviously can't speak for how in character it is as someone who doesn't know these characters well at all, but I can at least understand what they're going for. Wanda insults Zatanna's skills as a sorceress, and that's something very important to Zatanna, so of course that'll annoy her. Zatanna does make the change as the first move of the fight, but realize she doesn't actually attack Wanda over being insulted. She just ensnares her with the chains, and she can see that Wanda has powers of her own given that she's flying, so she figures she won't actually be harming her. It's then Wanda who throws the actual first attack of the fight in retaliation, so that much makes sense to me at least. So after that, Zatanna turns into some rabbits and Wanda turns them all into playing cards. I was already rooting for Zatanna to win before that, but this is like the surefire way to ensure that I could never root for Wanda even if I preferred her, which I definitely do not. But it's okay, she gets decked in the face by Superman immediately after, and I like how triumphant that portion of the track sounds for it. And okay, I know the summon battle is a highlight for a lot of people, but to me it's more interesting in concept than it ended up in execution. It's not bad by any means, but the summons never actually do anything that stands out compared to what the sorceresses themselves do. It's just a kinda underwhelming melee fight with no voice acting and none of the characters using any of their abilities, which I get for most of them because they don't have that much to work with. But for Superman it is a little disappointing. But oh well, we get that one great punch on the rabbit killer, so that's all the scene needed for me to like it. Now, it might sound like I'm not that enthusiastic about the battle up until now, but this is where it starts to fully pick up. We get this fucking sick shot of the red curtains morphing into Wanda's crown as she becomes giant, and with the exchange that followed it, I for some reason expected Zatanna to quote Megamind, and she actually fucking did it. I popped off for this on my first viewing, it made me so happy. There's every chance this was a coincidence, but like, come on, they had the blue sparkly effects beside her, they knew exactly what they were doing. I think beyond just referencing Blue Jack's films, the scene gets across the dynamic of the fight very well. Wanda is generally a lot more serious and focused on her raw power, while Zatanna's out here having the time of her life getting to show off what she can really do. And beyond the lines themselves, it's reflected in the voice actresses' deliveries, with Cassandra Wladislava sounding much angrier with Wanda's deliveries, while Laura Mayfield gets across Zatanna's natural charisma and how much fun she's having. It's a great contrast, though it does mean that I'm getting a lot more out of Zatanna from the battle since Wanda herself doesn't do much that's interesting up until near the end. I know the community is going to get a lot more out of Zatanna as well, partly for something else that's coming up, and partly for this really cool shot where she reaches in front of the aspect ratio. I love how this shot looks and how it plays into Zatanna being able to escape out of her own comic panels, and the rest of the fight after this is in full screen, which is a nice attention to detail, but also I've already seen it captioned with "give me your phone," so I really hope that doesn't get run into the ground. Now they're outside of the universe and have even grown much larger than it, and I can see why some people would have issues issues with the pacing, since it is jumping from a street tier scale to the largest fight death battles ever had, but I don't find it too bothersome as much as with something like Thanos vs Darkseid. The two clearly weren't going all out before, and the fight was not focused at all on destructive power, so the jump doesn't feel that jarring to me. Even when they do go to that multiversal scale, the universes feel insignificant next to the two of them, which further shows the insane level these two are on. This is one of those cases where I don't actually mind that the cosmic scale destruction doesn't feel super grand and impactful. Though I do take issue with a different aspect to the pacing. Wanda having a breakdown and nuking the multiverse feels like it kinda happens out of nowhere. Sure, Zatanna did just pelt her in the face with 4 entire universes, but from Wanda's perspective that's like getting hit with a few marbles that don't actually do any damage. I don't mind it too much though, partly because Zatanna juggling the universes is a really funny image to me, and also they have the trans rights universe, which I don't know if it was intentional, but it's a W regardless. And also because Wanda's scream is so fucking well delivered, and it's especially impressive to me that the line right after is even better. I could be impressed that they worked in a line adjacent to the No More Mutants thing without it feeling forced, but I'm too distracted being impressed by the line delivery, which sounds like it was murder on the actress's throat. The impact of the eruption of energy is pretty great as well. It's the most powerful feeling move in the entire fight, and the silence that follows really helps to sell that. This is then followed by Zatanna getting her own play on the No More Mutants line as she does the classic magic trick of putting someone in a box and cutting them in half, which is a really creative death that I quite like. Then she drops Wanda's bisected corpse in front of her crowd and they all cheer. Okay. Also, I gotta say, I don't know who drew the shot of Zatanna bowing to the crowd, but it looks fantastic. The art style looks really different from what the hand-drawn shots usually look like, and I love it. It's so expressive with both the facial expressions and the body language, and the blue effects are a nice touch as well. It's one of my favourite shots visually in an already amazing looking fight. Not only are the characters really expressive, but the backgrounds and effects are some of the best the show has ever seen. I especially love how Wanda's magic has all these harsh reds and oranges, while Zatanna's has all these cool blues. It's a neat bit of colour contrast. I also think that alongside Wanda's more aggressive line reads next to Zatanna's more jovial ones, it helps to further show their conclusion on why Zatanna would win. Zatanna's main win con was her greater control after all, and the fight does a great job showing that with keeping her more level-headed while Wanda loses hers, which does end up giving her the leg up. So all in all, I quite enjoyed this episode. Not quite as much as Jinx vs Harley, but it was still a fun time for me from beginning to end. There weren't any points I really disliked in the fight. Closest was Wanda crushing a universe for no reason before she'd even gone off the deep end, but that's just one small shot. My only other real issue is the length of the battle not allowing for as many spells to be used. Because of that, I can't quite call this exactly what Strange vs Fate should have been, but I can still confidently call it a much better episode. And hey, unlike Strange vs Fate, which lacked both quality and quantity for the most part, Wanda vs Zatanna takes the few spells and abilities it does use, and uses them really well. There weren't any bad patches like the dogshit middle segment Strange vs Fate had, just a few scenes that were a little dull. I didn't expect to like this episode as much as I did, but this is the season's second consecutive 8 out of 10 for me. Maybe recency bias has something to do with that, who knows. For now, I love this episode and I'm looking forward to the next one. Not so much for the match itself, I really don't care about Tanjiro vs Jonathan, but assuming plans fall through, my review for that one's going to be very different to the ones I usually make. You'll see what I mean when we get there, and if you don't, then just assume the plans didn't work out. Hope you enjoyed this review. You can go check out Nem's one on his channel as well. Now for this video was just the reaction highlight reel that's left, so you can see the rest of my friends be upset at the lack of magic crystals.
Let's go!
Magic time.
Magic! It's gonna be a magical experience.
Guys, let's go!
Scarlet, wait! Zatanna, no one's favorite.
Please let
I'm not sure
Zatanna
why
win.
that clip's fucking hilarious.
Like Batman.
Like Batman, he comes up.
The
timing was so perfect.
Very present.
It looks so stupid! I
Quicksilver
hate
and Quicksilver and green is so weird. It looks so weird. Oh my god, yeah.
He's all green too. He's all green.
Larry!
Ooh, that's so true.
I want Zatanna to win so bad, but oh my god.
Same.
Zatanna is so much more fun. Oh,
Where did Wiz go? It happened again!
Jocelyn ate Wiz.
Right, shut up.
awful. That's the worst thing you've ever said, DJ.
Just bored Wiz.
I guess every episode's gonna have a guest.
Where is
one's
Wiz?
Move
I-
gonna be on.
I am-
Artemis gonna be on.
I'm begging you, please no cell, please. Oh my god,
I
please.
am glad that they're bringing Jocelyn back, because I like Death to Death Battle.
Yeah.
He's already better guest than real movies.
I'm fine so far, but if they have Cell in an episode, I'm gonna die.
Oh no.
I'll
In his own episode.
Oh my god. Oh, they're going all
Okay,
in. huh?
I'm sure Zatanna has something.
All of time, all of matter, and all of reality.
Dude, Ben.
Everything.
Average
That's
woman.
crazy.
Ben popping off with his line deliveries now.
God, her design is so shit. I'm sorry. Oh my god. I hate her costume.
I think she looks awesome.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my mistake.
Look at that. Just half of a hat.
Oh yeah, what? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's gonna happen.
Done!
Yeah.
That's the idea. Zatanna, shoot her.
Yeah, if Zatanna has the strength to like destroy a building with her bare fist, then she might win.
Oh my god. Who joined?
Ducko.
Again.
Hey,
Or
Ducko.
get towards the end of Scarlet Witch.
Another one or Ducko comes in the middle.
You joined at a pretty good time, Ducko, honestly.
Yeah, you'll listen.
Yeah,
you'll
you
listen to
did.
hear about Zatanna.
Alright, Jocelyn.
So she doesn't even redeem herself. She's just gonna bitch.
I just got goosebumps.
Look at this stupidity.
Dude, where's your helmet, Zatanna?
Thinking she's anyone new is good as the Scarlet Witch.
I win the death battle backwards.
They should have read the rest of the death battle backwards.
Bondage.
Max, you're
He
cringe.
said it.
Yeah, and so did you.
But she said it first.
Oh, okay.
She's more cringe.
Yeah, she influenced me.
Are they just the same characters? What was happening? This sounds like
One of them is infinitely more entertaining.
This sounds like it would be such a headache to decide.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
They both will move each other's powers, so they both have a fist fight.
Spectre! I really hope she wins.
I want her to literally rip her into paper. Turn her into paper.
I'll pop off if Zatanna wins, actually.
Yeah, I will pop off.
Which multiverse is larger? That's what it comes down to.
Oh, come on.
Superman's failing, let's go.
Fucking Superman.
It looks like Zatanna could put up a fight.
Yeah, it looks like I don't know who's gonna win at this point.
I didn't hear the. I want to hear the result.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm
The
curious
results
to
are
see
followed
the-
by the winner is Zatanna.
Oh, honestly, it does sound like Zatanna's smarter. Like, they're saying more for her intelligence. So maybe, like, if it's just a matter of who can use their powers
Didn't
better.
like that. Oh.
Well,
What do you mean you didn't like that?
It's a classic magic trick.
Yeah.
Gross.
You right there? You're right there,
Scarlet
bro?
Witch is gonna come her dad and say, "You disappoint
Ah.
No way. Yo, Rido opponent, let's go.
me." It looks like Zatanna's also a good person, which seems to be an advantage. Let's go, Zatanna! Let's go,
Oh.
Zatanna!
Fingers crossed.
She's gonna
Fingers
lose,
crossed.
isn't she?
Here's
No.
hoping.
Pull a rabbit out of a hat!
Oh well.
Zatanna.
I'm hoping for Zatanna, but I'm assuming. Oh my goodness, Batman magic.
They missed their chance to show Batman. He'll be in the animation.
I'll give you a hand, Zatanna, and chucks a crystal at her.
That's how she wins. Outside.
A Batman magic crystal. A Batman magic crystal.
Outside help. Outside.
Nice.
She better not kill those bunnies. What the fuck?
Cringe!
You
Cringe!
Scarlet Witch! Oh my god!
Oh no!
Pull,
Okay, outside
Pull
help,
back,
Paul.
pull
She's just getting
back.
Superman.
Batman, please have
Say
Batman take part in the
something.
magic fight.
No.
Oh, Superman.
Come on, Superman!
Oh, yo!
Oh!
That's sick.
Superman was the Hulk. Holy shit, dude.
We're having a Pokemon battle.
I buffed my Superman!
Yo, Batman! Where's Batman?
Hey!
Turn blue.
No way.
This is sick.
This is pretty
Yo!
sick.
Oh! Hey!
I love
Oh, shit. This is fucking cool.
Come on, Zatanna!
This is a sick fight, actually.
You just killed everyone in that universe!
Oh my god, this is Gurren Lagann type shit.
The
Yeah.
second universe.
Like, how is she just jungle rope? She's just
Jesus. That was 3 bums. Calm the fuck down.
Come on,
Some
Zatanna.
drama queen. Yes, no, maybe so.
No more witches!
No more witches.
That was cool. That was smooth.
Yo.
That was very smooth.
That sound like the
I
scream of
love the
death.
hand drawn.
What's so cool?
Yo! Please!
Please, come on, show the KO, please.
Yeah!
Fuck yeah!
That's...
Wow!
Yeah!
I'm happy with DC dub.
Yeah.
The hand drawn on that was so
God,
good.
thank God.
That didn't feel that fight didn't feel that long, but I don't think it really needed to be. That was fucking
Yeah,
great.
that was fucking really cool.
It was short, but it was so cool.
Crazy bitch.
He had better mental health.
I love that hand drawn.
Yeah, that looks so
That style's
good.
really nice.
Oh, what's next?
Tanjiro
Base.
Jonathan? Hell yeah! Let's go!
I
see.
My boy!
Let's go. Let's go, Jonathan. Let's go, Jonathan.